Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Pu, and welcome to the Taraxa AMA in September. I guess happy Ethereum merge, everyone. Everything seemed to have gone pretty successfully, and we're all still here and doing well. So today we're doing something a little bit different. We are doing a simulcast on both Twitter Spaces as well as YouTube streaming. So hopefully we get the best of both worlds, the sort of organic social traffic that comes over through Twitter Spaces, but also we'll have a permanent record, a video record of the AMA on YouTube with automatic transcription, which I think a lot of our community members were asking for. Okay, so right now, let me see. Let's make it so that everyone can talk. All right. So everyone is a speaker right now in Twitter Spaces. If you wanted to speak, just click on the microphone on the left side and just speak up. Please be mindful of other people who are speaking. Also, if you want to ask a question or say something inside YouTube stream, I think there's a chat window that's open right now. So you can open that up and just ask away or discuss away. All right, so let's get started. Today, I'll mostly be covering the roadmap updates for Taraxa's latest monthly update. And also, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the latest feature that we were able to complete, which is spam filtering, which turns out to be quite topical for this AMA specifically because somebody, well, I don't know if it's one person or multiple people, but our tweet to request for AMA questions was actually pretty severely bot spammed. So maybe it'll be interesting to actually go through a few of those examples to see what we could do with this type of spam once we do actually integrate Twitter into our Hype applications. All right, so let's get started. The roadmap goals, right? So for those of you who are relatively new to our project, Taraxa in 2022 has two large roadmap milestones. The first one is native token conversion, which is something that we definitely want to make sure we get into the exchange's hands to convert our ERC20 tokens into the native tokens on the Taraxa network. The second one is launching our social listening application. Okay, great. So in terms of our native token conversion, we were working on we're focused on several pretty important tasks, right? So the first one is that in the Taraxa protocol, we actually received the audit report, the preliminary audit report from Helpborn. The preliminary audit report is something that comes before, obviously, the final audit report. And our team is actually in the process of responding to this audit and the issues that they brought up. Once we get a final audit report from Helpborn, we're able to hand that off to the exchange and actually get in their waiting line or waiting queue to actually complete our native token conversion. Now, from a technical perspective, we don't need the exchange to collaborate with us in order to do the conversion. We can just do it ourselves, but of course, that will cause a lot of very inconvenient user experiences for our users, because if you freeze the ERC20 contract, the exchanges would, you will have problems withdrawing or depositing. So we're trying to make things easy for everyone, and so that we're working closely with the exchanges to make sure that this is done simultaneously, right? And there isn't any time lag. So all right. So the next one is that we have been actually for a few months now very aggressively stress testing the network prior to during the audit and actually post audit, and we were able to work with Helpborn to find quite a number of issues. So we have addressed a ton of them in the back. So the network, I think, under high stress, you'll see actually problems that you wouldn't see normally with networks that are running at a much lower throughput with no latency demands whatsoever. Yeah. So in that process, we've also addressed a lot of potential DDoS attack vectors on the ledger. Overall, I think the security of the ledger, we feel pretty comfortable with it. We are in the process of wrapping up addressing the issues that are being brought up by the preliminary report, and we'll let everyone know once that's completed, and when we have the final report. In terms of the ecosystem, also in preparation for the native token conversion, we have completed on-chain economic integration. So, and into the community side, between the ledger and the community side, and we're deploying tests on that on our developer network. So once it's done on the development network, we'll push it out into the test net and then eventually onto the mainnet candidate. So that's really the flow that we're going with. On-chain economics integration is pretty important because, well, that's how you're supposed to account for staking yields, as well as no commissions and fees and such. So this is a very important step. It's been ready for a while. We just right now we're testing the integration to make sure that everyone can interact with it pretty normally. I think earlier I saw a question from someone on social. When can we remove KYC, right, for staking yields? Well, once the on-chain economics has been fully integrated and the native token conversion has occurred, then there will no longer be any KYC requirements for staking yields, or so tells me, by the foundation's legal team. All right. In terms of improving the stability of the Explorer, so obviously the Explorer is like the window or the graphic user interface for most people when they think about a layer one ledger, right? So they come in and people come in and they look at what's going on, look up their transactions, look at network activities. So we're very close to completely finishing a GraphQL integration, and this is to improve the stability of the Explorer so it doesn't get unhooked or it doesn't go down. When the Explorer goes down, people tend to think that the underlying layer one has gone down, which almost never happens. So obviously in time for the native token conversion, we want to make sure that we have the most stable Explorer possible. So we have a GraphQL integration that we've almost completed on the ledger side as well as on the Explorer side. So that's coming out soon. The Explorer itself the front end is being completely rewritten as well to make it more updated and modern and in line with rest of Taraxa's design language. Also part of the ecosystem, this is also part of working with exchanges to complete the native token conversion. We've completed the exchange integration technical documentation. So these are the instructions that the exchanges will need to follow in order to integrate their existing infrastructure with Taraxa's mainnet network. This is pretty, we don't expect there to be too many technical difficulties there because as we mentioned before, Taraxa's RPC layer is backwards compatible with Ethereum. And every exchange obviously has a very mature implementation of their Ethereum RPC layer and the way that they, sort of work with withdrawals and deposits, interact with the Ethereum chain. So we don't really expect there to be too much technical difficulties because they can literally just port over the same code that they've been using before for Ethereum, change the chain ID, change the RPC node that they connect to, and it should just all work perfectly without any problems. So I think whatever weight that that's going to be incurred is not going to be driven by technical difficulties or anything. It's probably just going to be just the fact that there are lots of people ahead of us, backlog from the past years. Okay. All right, so going on to our second milestone, which is the launching of our social listening application. So, while we're moving forward on all aspects of the application, data collection, data analytics, and also at the same time building a decentralized data collection client, I think what we want to highlight today is actually the progress that we made on the analytics portion of the Hype app. So for those of you who are once again relatively new to Taraxa, the social listening application makes publicly available social data highly trustworthy through decentralization so that we can feed them through a variety of automated mechanisms. So the Hype application is the first of such mechanism, which allows people or projects, anyone to hype up a specific project or a topic by automatically identifying and rewarding the right type of community building activities, right? So anyone who has ever run a social campaign, or I guess even participating in a social campaign, would know that as soon as you run any kind of social bounty, is pretty much immediately spammed or attacked by lots of bots and bounty hunters. Actually, that happened exactly 2 days ago when we posted our tweets to request for AMA questions. I think within probably a few minutes of us posting that, we got over 500 replies, all of them bots. So that's a sign of the times, right? The people complaining about bots, Elon Musk complaining about bots on Twitter, that's a very real problem. It's not an imaginary problem. So we are currently, as to getting started, we're currently integrated into Telegram, which means that we're simultaneously listening in on a few thousand different publicly available Telegram groups. And our clients will get that data and actually try to, in the process of trying to figure out who's actually making a positive contribution, we try to filter out anything that looks like spam. There's something that actually pretty interesting. So how do you, because this is something that we just saw happen to our tweet. How do we identify spam, right? So there are several. We have a relatively simple model right now. It's something that we're going to definitely refine going forward. But I think just given the relatively simple model we have, we're able to probably filter out the vast majority of bots and spam-like behavior. So the very first thing that we look at, without even looking at the content, is the frequency of posts, right? So if you're inside a Telegram group, or if you're replying to a tweet or whatever, if a specific account has a very, very frequent, a very high frequency of replies or comments or whatever, far higher than what is the norm, right, for that specific social platform, then we automatically label as spam. Right. So because even if you're making a high quality contribution, if you keep repeating it over and over again at a very rapid pace, it becomes spam. Right. So the more you repeat something, the more quickly you repeat something, the less meaning it conveys, and the more annoying it becomes. So that's right away, right off the first metric. If you're repeating something in rapid succession, then that is labeled as spam. Now, what if someone changes the character or changes a few words, or switch around a sentence or two? Yeah, we've accounted for that. So the algorithm we're using is something called LSH, which is locality sensitive hashing, which is a very interesting and highly scalable algorithm that can be used to detect what are called near duplicates. So things that look very, very similar, they're not exactly the same, right? But they look very, 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 very similar. So we actually are able to catch any kind of variations across a large scale across a large data set to figure out, hey, these things that look, they're not exactly the same, but they're all together. So we count that all towards sort of the posting frequency. So we're able to filter all of that out. The second part of it is, in order to figure out whether or not the contribution is actually positive, of course, is whether or not what you're saying has any relevance to a specific hype campaign or social bounty or whatever, right? So, for example, if you look in some of the tweets that reply to us, a lot of them were nonsensical, right? They were generated by machines. Some of them don't understand that the project name, right? They think my name, my Twitter handle, Revoid, is actually the project's name. And they insert that. So instead of saying, what is, asking a question about Taraxa, they're asking a question about Revoid and Revoid's features, right? So one's definitely nonsense, right? There were a lot of these automated tweets that are asking about NFTs and NFT platforms or DeFi. Taraxa is not an NFT platform, is not a DeFi platform. So a lot of these comments are going to be very, very clearly irrelevant to Taraxa as the project, and specifically the ask that was in the tweet. So those would also be filtered out. The third thing that hasn't really been implemented, but it is on our roadmap in terms of spam detection and bot detection, is that we're going to start keeping a record of individuals or accounts that look like bots and start blacklisting them, right? So instead of just looking at specifically the interaction that a bot or a specific account has with a specific campaign or tweet or whatever, instead of looking at that in isolation, what we're also going to do is that we're going to go back into the account that is suspected of being a bot or spam and look at a large swath or large section of their history, a much longer view of their history, and see what has this person been posting so far, right? So that gives us an idea, like, is he posting sort of the same thing to a lot of different accounts in rapid succession? So even if some accounts in isolation looks sort of on the edge of looking legitimate, like maybe this person isn't really posting that frequently, but if you look at the sort of the entire body or a large section of the body of his tweets, it looks like he's posting the same thing over and over again to a lot of different accounts in rapid succession. So that also counts against sort of the legitimacy or the credibility of that account. And we'll actually keep a track of that and start blacklisting these accounts as well, because no one likes bots, right? So and of course, there are platform-specific idiosyncrasies to all of these things. And one of the things that you can see actually on Twitter is a behavior that you actually see on Twitter is that a lot of these bots, they will come and suddenly you get hundreds and hundreds of new followers, right? New followers following your account, and as soon as they post something, they unfollow you, right? They do that because most accounts have this sort of restriction that only followers can comment on their threads. So that kind of behavior is also very bot-like behavior. While Hype or Echo is not really hooked into Twitter right now, we're mostly focused on right now on Telegram. I think a lot of the same patterns and the same analytic tools that we're using to filter out spam and bots on Telegram will also apply, actually one-to-one directly apply to the way that we are going to detect that and filter them out on Twitter as well. So this is something I think pretty exciting for us, because I think we didn't expect the results to be this good, even with sort of a relatively simpler algorithms that we actually put together. So very excited to share that at some point with you guys. What we've done is that we've completed we built up an entire pipeline of analytics and scoring, and we ran that on a 3 million message data set. So that has been completed. So the next one, I think what we're going to do is that we're going to use a much larger data set. So something like maybe like an 80 million or 100 million message data set to figure out, to do further testing and see how well these algorithms do. So after we complete with that, after we complete our internal testing, we're going to start running a few Taraxa hype pools with the community, and get some actual data. And then by that time, we'll be able to share a lot of information with the community on exactly what we've been doing, the outcome of the data, the results of the data, how we got it. You can actually also trace back to the raw data directly in Telegram as well if you want to. So it's going to be pretty exciting. All right. So I suppose that sort of concludes the update portion of this AMA. And so if you're online right now and you have a question that you would like to ask, feel free to ask it. You can do that on the Twitter Spaces, or you can do that on YouTube. I do think let's see. I do think somebody asked a question earlier about who. My question is, when will staking be open to U.S. folks? I think that was asked by Sam Koshaw. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Sam Koshaw 13. I think I sort of addressed that earlier. Is that after native token conversion has been completed, the legal team at the foundation said that the KYC requirement can actually be removed. So hopefully that will happen very quickly, and we won't stay in line with the exchanges for too long. Okay. Well, if you guys have any follow-up questions that if you didn't get a chance to attend this AMA and still want to ask a question, always feel free to ask them in our communities on Telegram, on Discord. Our Telegram is taraxa.io/tg. Our Discord is taraxa.io/discord. So pretty easy to remember. Come into our communities and just ask the question. And you can leave it at the DM. Seems like replying in Twitter, that route has effectively been cut off. So apologies that we weren't able to actually extract any meaningful questions from the tweet, just because as far as I could see, over all 560 of them, or however many there are now, they're all pretty much generated by bots. So pretty severe problem. But at the same time, I think it makes our mission to actually to actually make social data a lot more useful. Makes that mission much more it crystallizes the importance of that vision, right? Of that mission, and clearly it's going to be useful to everyone. Okay, I guess we'll end it here, and thank you for attending. We'll subsequently release a text summary of this AMA. Okay, bye.